Hey, everybody, Tom Siga from Duluth Pack, and this is the Leader of the Pack podcast. We have a special guest today, a friend of mine, somebody that I've done business with for a lot of years, and we are going to have some fun today, folks. Our special guest is Bob Christnacht, the Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Pendleton Woolen Mills. Bob, welcome.
Hey, Tom, good to be with you.
It's, you know what, so fun to have you here. And I think we're going to have a few laughs in the next hour since you and I like to tell a few jokes and laugh together.
So this is called Leader of the Pack. Does that mean you're the lead dog?
That means that today you are the lead dog, and we're going to talk about people who are leaders in their professions. And you certainly are.
Well, I think the view as lead dog versus the dog behind the lead dog is much better for me than you right now.
Well, I don't know if I would go there, Bob, because you know what? I've been out and I've met with you. I've spent a lot of time with you. I've toured your facility, and you are a true leader. Don't be so humble here.
I'm not. Okay.
Folks, you know, we're going to jump in here with Bob, and obviously he's going to be humble, but I'm going to take him out of that humbleness today because he's a very accomplished human being. But we're going to go all the way back, Bob, before you and I had any gray hair. And we just want to learn a little bit about you and where you grew up and what was your childhood like and where'd you go to school?
Well, Tom, I grew up pretty much in Montana. And went to school and graduated from both high school and college in Montana, and it's kind of where I learned to be a maverick, I think, and self-sufficient and have some fun. It's actually where my career started because my high school job was working for a local department store, and ended up working for those guys over the course of the next 26 years. So it kind of led me through a lot of different times and a lot of different locations as I was relocated multiple times throughout my early career.
And where did you go to college and what did you major in?
Well, I went to college, University of Montana, and I finally walked out of there with a degree in business and with a minor in accounting, business management. But it was really, I got kicked out. I was on the 7-year plan. I had no desire to graduate. College was the best, I had more time, more money, more freedom. I was working full time, going to school full time, and I had no desire to grow up. Still don't.
Bob, in your title, it doesn't say doctor. And I was saying, well, a lot of people go to college that long, but usually they get MD after their name.
Yeah, MD. I was an amateur doctor in certain categories, but no.
So you came out with a business degree, and where did you go to work first?
I worked for a local department store in Montana, and actually, you being from Duluth, one of our stores was up in Duluth. It was a glass block store, the old department store in downtown Main Street, Duluth, in the old days.
My mother used to work there during Christmas time to be able to pay for Christmas.
Well, she got her employee discount. Probably bought you Christmas clothes from a mercantile. That was a mercantile stores. And Glassbach was one of the stores, and that was in my group of 5 stores that I was part of out of Montana. So I actually traveled to Duluth many times to the Glassbach store in my young buying days.
And at that time, you would see us in the rearview mirror and say, "I can't get on the gas pedal fast enough."
Well, no, because we would drive from Billings, where we were headquartered at the time, to Duluth. And my memories of Minnesota is every town's got a fiberglass something at the main entrance, either a fish or a chicken or a Paul Bunyan or a blue ox or, what is Duluth's fiberglass animal, Tom?
I'd like to say that it was a big, huge, like canoe pack, but we don't have a fiberglass animal or moniker for the city. But, I'm going to have to take a note here and talk to the powers that be in the city and see if we can't do that, since it sounds like we're one of the only cities that don't.
At least from what my experience of driving up north out of Minnesota or Minneapolis, it's, I would think a big walleye maybe, or a northern pike.
There's actually one of those about an hour and a half north of here, but it's not in the city. There's a big northern and there's a big bluegill as well up that way. So you're definitely on, but Paul Bunyan would be for sure the one that would be most noticeable.
That or an oar boat.
Well, you could come here. You could come here and be one of the city fathers. But let's talk again about the mercantile stores, because you worked your way up within that. And that was a business that, if I recall, started in my notes say 1914, and that company was in business through 1998, correct?
1998 till Dillard's came and bought us. And so, yes, I was there when we got acquired. So Mercantile Stores was built out of a bunch of nameplates, regional retailers. A lot of mom and pops have been started by local businessmen, and as they retired out or they got into financial trouble, Mercantile slowly picked up the assets of the nameplates. So we had at the height we had 110 stores under, I think, 17 different local nameplates. So we felt keeping the nameplates at the time was important to be part of the community. We were better department stores, middle to better department stores, a tier or two above what Kohl's is today, slightly elevated, similar to a Macy's for the most part. But we were the local store. Had our local nameplate, credit cards. In many cases, we had the cafes, we had the beauty salons in the store. We were really the center of most of these towns, and we were downtown stores until the advent of the malls in the late 50s and early 60s. And we pretty much migrated to mall-based retail, with the exception of some of the legacy stores, like the old Glass Block store, which was a downtown store up until the day it was closed.
And when you started there, Bob, what were you doing, and what was your lineage through your tenure there?
Well, what was I doing? I started out in the men's floor, and this is back in this is leisure suit days. So I've gone from leisure suits to pre-washed denim to the disco era to the grunge to the yuppies and career to khaki pants to three-piece suits to casualization and getting back. So I've kind of seen it all and done it all over the course of many years being in retail, and still today at Pendleton, since retail reports to me, I see that on our apparel side. As trends continue to evolve, they kind of go back to the future. And so I was with Mercantile for 28 years.
28 years.
28 years. Started in Montana, got transferred around in Montana. Then I got transferred down to Denver for about 6 months, and then sent to Cincinnati, where the headquarters was, to take over the home division for the entire organization.
And what would the home division look like?
Well, it would be products that went in your home. So it was home textiles, it was housewares, it was furniture, it was luggage, it was gourmet candies, it was stationery, all the products you would find in a home store. Bed Bath and Beyond meets Macy's.
And what were some of your, as you come forward through that career, some of the most valuable lessons that you could learn that would help you as you elevated in the rest of your career?
Well, I think the biggest lesson I ever learned was from the nuns in parochial school, who taught me it's better to ask forgiveness than permission.
You took that forward into business?
I've taken that over, and my career would be based around moving forward and asking forgiveness versus permission. And so I would think that's probably what do you think about my fundamental things I learned in my early career. It was better to the time you wait around for some of the long decision-making processes, the opportunities have passed themselves. So I think the one thing that people would say about me in the early days is you just did it. By the time they turned around, it was already done.
And so you're going to have a lot of your employees listening to this podcast, and you're giving out some of those secrets of the trade. I think you might have your hands full after this is aired.
No, I love it. I hire only people willing to make decisions. Analysis paralysis is one of the things that just can bog organizations down. I'd rather have folks making mistakes and learning from their mistakes than I ever do wanting people to just be panicked and worried about their decisions and never being able to move forward.
Bob, where does Elder Bierman come into this whole mix?
Oh, Elder Bierman was a regional department store chain based out of Dayton, Ohio at the time. And so in 1998, Mercantile Stores was purchased by Dillard's department store. And I had an option. I had several different offers, one of which was to go work for a regional department store chain 30 miles away from my home in Cincinnati, up in Dayton, Ohio, that's Elder Beerman, which ran a series of stores in the upper Midwest, regional department stores as well. Didn't have to relocate the family, so it was kind of an easy decision to make that move. And I hopped up to Elder Beerman and spent about 18 months there till I came to Pendleton.
And while you were there, you obviously took a promotion because you came in as vice president of home at the company.
Well, Elder Beerman was more into titles. I actually had a larger role at Mercantile. I got the bigger title at Elder Beerman, but I ran a much larger operation at Mercantile with really more responsibility. I just had a fancier title. It looked better on the resume, I think.
Well, that sometimes can help us old guys out when we're in the beginning of the careers, right?
Absolutely.
Good resume builder. And after 18 months, you go to Pendleton Woolen Mills.
Pendleton came to me, yes. It actually goes back to my Mercantile days. One of my coworkers at Mercantile in a similar role, Pat Fowler, ran Better Sportswear. And Pat and I were the two loudest people in the entire Mercantile organization in the corporate office. We used to tease each other that we'd take each other's dictation because we were so loud. But Pat came to work for Pendleton when Dillard's bought Mercantile. And so Pat and I stayed in touch, and I kept telling her I'll be a stock boy, come work for you, because she was, Pendleton's based in Portland, Oregon. My mom was born and raised in Portland, so I've got a tremendous amount of extended family out this way. And we'd come to Portland every year to go to the Oregon coast. So, I knew the city well. So when the position came available at Pendleton, Pat had suggested my name to the folks at Pendleton, and they gave me a call.
And can you go back now? So you make that transition over to Pendleton, but I think for our listeners that don't know the history of Pendleton Woolen Mills, Thomas K, and back to 1863. I mean, I thought our company was old. We got nothing on you, Bob. Can you educate our listeners on this historic brand?
Well, Tom, I would just love to educate your listeners on the Pendleton brand. It's a great story. So Pendleton's still a family-owned company. It traces its roots back to 1863, when Thomas K, an English weaver who had been working on the East Coast, came over to Oregon. And back in those days, you would travel down to Panama. You'd take a mule across the isthmus, get on another ship, and come up north. And he came into Oregon to work at a new woolen mill that had been founded in Oregon to be the master weaver. And there were so many woolen mills in the United States, but there were over 1,000 woolen mills back then, because every town that had a lot of sheep wanted to try to increase the value of that fleece that they had by manufacturing that, whether cleaning the wool, spinning it into yarn, or spinning it into fabric to add more value locally if possible. And that's what the people in Oregon were looking for when Thomas came to work for them. So that's actually before, it's in the middle of the Civil War. It's 1863. Oregon's been a state for 4 years, so very, very new. Thomas K then stayed in the wool industry and ended up owning his own woolen mills. He had several of them over the course of his career. 3 of them burned down, which was pretty not uncommon back in the day, based on the materials used in the manufacturing of wool, and some of the back then it was gas lights in that in many cases, and there'd be chemicals in that could cause explosions and burn up. So he ends up losing 3 mills. But Thomas K was illiterate. So his daughter Fanny K was his right-hand person, and she pretty much helped him run the business because she kept all the books, did all the correspondence for Tom, and really was with her father every day helping to run the mill. Well, in 1900, Thomas K dies, and as the tradition back then, the mill went to his oldest son. So Fanny K was out of the mill business. It was out of the mill. Her brother was now running the mill. But Fanny K had 3 sons and was very interested in still trying to stay in the fabric and woolen business. She actually sent her 3 sons to the Philadelphia textile school back in the early 1900s, 1904, 1905. And she wanted to make sure they got a good education. So she went back and lived with them. So the Bishop boys, which Fanny K at that point had been married, and her sons, the 3 Bishop brothers, lived with their mother while they went to the Philadelphia School of Textiles. 1909, an opportunity comes available for a woolen mill in Pendleton, Oregon, a small town in Eastern Oregon, about 4.5 hours from Portland. Where the local townspeople had a mill that had been up and running, that had shut down the previous year. So they reached out. They knew Fanny Kay and the Bishop family, and she knew they had some sons and that she had a little bit of money. And the town folks talked to her about coming on over and starting up again the Pendleton mill. And that's what the boys did. Fanny kind of stayed in the background. The boys came over and took over the woolen mills, and that's the Bishop family. And today our CEO is John Bishop, who is the great grandson of one of those brothers that founded the mill, and started out in 1909. And the first products we manufactured were woolen blankets, and a lot of those in the brighter colors were quickly sought after by our local Native American consumers. The Pendleton mill is on the historic lands of the Umatilla Indian tribes, and then as the company expanded beyond blankets into apparel, into men's wool shirts, and then women's apparel, and then into some of our home products, which expanded beyond the blankets. And today we're a multifaceted company with a wholesale business, as well as our own stores, our direct-to-consumer web business catalog, and then our marketing efforts, as well as licensed products, which is probably the newest growth area for the company.
Bob, and we'll get into each one of those as we go along here. So you have Pendleton, Oregon, but you also have Washougal, Oregon facility.
No, that's actually Washougal, Washington, Tom. It's across the river. It's almost, Washougal's really a suburb of Portland, but it's on the Washington side of the Columbia River.
Okay.
That's the larger of our two mills. That was purchased by the family in 1915. It's our larger of our two mills, which still run today. It's where we do all our wet work. So all our finishing, all our dyeing of fabrics is done there. We still weave and spin yarn in the Pendleton mill, and then we finish all the fabric at the Washougal mill. So the two mills are integrated together as part of our production process.
Folks, I promise you, I had the luxury of visiting with Bob in Pendleton, Oregon, and getting a tour of the facility, and it was nothing less than absolutely amazing to see what you do and how you do it, and the quality that goes into every single product that you make, and the care that all the employees have for the products that you manufacture. You know, I'm huge on make it in United States, USA,
Yeah.
Made with an American flag on it. And so that is really cool. And I also want to let our listeners know, if they're trying to envision where Pendleton, Oregon is driving into Pendleton, Oregon. It's one of the most beautiful drives you'll go on. And I've been a lot of places in this wonderful country, and that's one of the more beautiful drives you will take. I know if I were you, Bob, I would drive over to the plant quite often.
Well, they don't like me coming to the, no, yeah. I'm disruptive when I'm there. We just want to keep working. It's challenging these days, keeping up with supply demand. And so I think I just get in the way of the workers when I'm over there.
Bob, when you first came to Pendleton then, and I can't remember how many years ago, you'll have to remind us, but what did you come there doing? And then let's talk about your personal lineage, step by step, in your personal growth within the Pendleton Corporation.
Well, I came to Pendleton to be at the time, the blanket manager, and they had just started the year before a little bit of a home business. And it was, when I looked at the opportunity, I really felt that they had this unrecognized business in home that could be so much larger than where they saw it going. And I really my own personal reason for coming was to grow the home business. They had this great brand. I felt there was a void in the marketplace for the Pendleton aesthetic, and that it could translate itself so much more from just blanket textiles, as well as a outreach to national retailers, which is something that Pendleton and Home at the time, or blankets at the time, did not do. They were primarily servicing much more of the Native American indigenous customers in the home division than they were in their apparel division. So that's a real opportunity here to mainstream this product and brand. And that's really what I came to do, at least in my mind. And family really hired me to run the blanket division because that's where they thought they needed it. They really didn't see it as a big growth opportunity. I think they saw me more as a caretaker, and I saw the opportunity to really grow home, and that's why I came.
How did you break into that home then? And what were some of your challenges when you first started breaking into the home part of the business?
I think the first biggest challenge I had was convincing the family at the time, fourth generation, our president and the CFO, that it didn't have to be woolen textiles to be home, that there was so much more opportunity than just making woolen blankets, and that these patterns could translate themselves well into other products. So the very first product I developed for home was coffee mugs, oversized coffee mugs with our iconic jacquard patterns on the mugs. And I remember at the time, our president was Mort Bishop Jr., and he was a gruff old Marine who had been in the business for 70 years. His father is one of the founders of the company. And he called them trinkets. Trinket business. We don't need to be in the trinket business. I said, they're not trinkets, Mort. People value our blankets, and they probably want to live with that pattern and other things. So the first year we imported mugs. It was first imported product we had in home as well, because we couldn't find anything locally. And I think we sold $200,000 worth of mugs in the first year. So at the end of the year, I'm kind of cocky going into my meeting to talk about how I want to continue the growth and, to relay the success of the mugs, and kind of got this smirk on his face. He said, not bad. When I told the $200,000 sales, not bad for a trinket. I said, yeah, let's get some more trinkets in here. And so that really kind of started the whole process of developing the home collection into what it is today, which home has gone from representing blankets at home. At the time I started was less than 10% of the company's business, and now it's 70% of our business. So the company's grown. As the company's grown, we've grown it into be the big gorilla in the room for the company has been the growth of our home business.
And tell us how, for our listeners who know you for the awesome Pendleton clothing, and I want to get into that deeper, and the Western style blankets. A lot of people know you for that, but let's go deeper into the home, because, okay, you have the mugs. By the way, I drink my coffee every morning out of my Pendleton mug that I got from you at a trade show when it was the, I believe, 50th anniversary of the national parks.
100th anniversary of the national parks.
Okay, 100th anniversary of I don't read my mug. I just drink out of my mug, right? But the big mugs, and I love that mug. I drink my coffee out of it every day. But so it started with those coffee mugs, but now you've been given the green light that, okay, your, as they would say, trinkets was successful, and you've obviously made it very successful. Let's talk about that growth and what that looked like, from that day that you were able to be all smug to today.
Well, I'm still all smug. I mean, there's nothing's changed there, Tom. I'm cocksure myself. No, I think what it was twofold. We didn't have the home product. We had to develop home product. We also didn't have the customer base. We had customers who were buying jacquard blankets to sell to a lot of Native Americans and people that appreciated that. So we had two things. You could great product, but if you didn't have customers for that new product, so it was really a two-phased approach. As we developed product, we also needed to increase the demand for that product. So one of the first areas I went after was more mainstream retail, and took a look at all the department stores out there in the world. And so we're not selling them anything. When I go on the floors, why don't they have a washable wool blanket? And so we started creating some washable wool blankets, and we got positioning in a lot of stores with the washable wool programs. And from that, I'm able to then, my philosophy has always been land and expand. Get your foot in the door and then expand upon that. And so we were able to then grow the offering with those folks. And so they kind of gave us some core customers to start talking to as we started developing new products. We looked into looking around the home. Instead of being scattered, we were very strategic in deciding what areas we wanted to expand into. So, starting with blankets. Well, blankets are such a decorative part of the business. Let's own the living room. Before we go anywhere else, let's get the living room taken care of. So let's create some more throws. Let's create some toss pillows. Let's create some furniture pieces. Let's create some flooring, rugs, and that they call work in the room. Then let's go finish building out the bedroom, and let's take these blanket designs. Let's make bedspreads, and let's make bedding sets, and create shams and toss pillows and sort of things that would fill out a bedroom. And then we talked about the bunkhouse. Well, let's do the same thing, but let's do it now for novelty and for kids and that. And so we created some additional collections there. From there, we said, well, the kitchen's a great place to hang out, so let's start working in the kitchen. So we started creating more giftware, more serving pieces, more decorative home, as well as some dinnerware collections. Moved it into that. From there, we've kind of continued to broaden out and expand the classifications. Right now for us, outdoor living is so important with the COVID and that. So many people spending more time outdoors. So let's do more not only in the patio, but also for all those soccer moms. So let's make some blankets that you can lay on the ground when it's wet and won't get, wet and moldy and rotten. So we created a roll-up blankets that are waterproof on one side and a wool blanket on the other. So it's really a nice product. Created some flooring chairs, baskets, gifts of coffee mugs and thermos. You got your coffee, but now let's create some thermos mugs, some vacuum packed mugs, some water bottles, just kind of continue to create the opportunities around the home. The area I haven't gone into yet, there's no Pendleton car. We're not in the garage yet. Not sure that we're going to ever have a Pendleton car, although we have worked with car companies, and we did have a Pendleton edition of a Kenworth semi-truck, a W900 that had a Pendleton interior in the sleeping compartment. That was pretty cool. Those were badged as Pendleton collections. And we've done camper trailers with we did an Airstream collaboration where we outfitted and they launched an Pendleton edition Airstream for the 100th anniversary of the national parks too. So we played in cars, but I don't think we're going to do too much in the garage yet. I think there's still opportunities at home, as well as our continued growth in our other areas, our men's and our women's business, our outerwear business. And then expanding the brand further with our licensing and going to finding best of class partners in areas that we don't play in, and expanding the brand there as well.
I want to jump forward a little bit because I know when I was out visiting with you and toured the factory, we also drank some Pendleton whiskey on that trip.
I'm surprised you can remember, Tom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, as much as
yeah, we did our fair share that night to support the company. But can you tell us, how did that all come about? And now you see TV commercials, national TV commercials about Pendleton whiskey. And by the way, folks, if you're a whiskey drinker, it's good. It's very good. There's some at my house right now. But how did that come about? I mean, you branched into some pretty cool stuff.
Well, that was, a lot of our success is by pure accident and a circumstance and luck. And this happened to be one of those cases. The Pendleton Roundup Association had been working with a local distiller in Hood River, Oregon, to create a letterbuck whiskey for the Pendleton Rodeo, which is the annual rodeo in Pendleton, Oregon, that's held the second week in September every year. It's the last of the major rodeos in the rodeo circuit for the year, and it's where a lot of the cowboys come to try to earn their final points before they go to the national finals rodeo in December. Anyway, the Rodeo Association been working with Hood River on creating a letterbuck whiskey, which is the rodeo is called the Letterbuck Rodeo. And at the 11th hour, when they did their focus groups, the focus groups really didn't understand letterbuck and Pendleton Roundup, which is the rodeo's name, but they understood the word Pendleton. So they said, well, let's call it Pendleton Letterbuck whiskey. Well, that's great, except that the Woolen Mills owns the name Pendleton, which I think was a shock to the city fathers that they didn't own their name Pendleton for their hometown in the category distilled spirits. The Woolen Mill up the street actually owned the name. So they came to us, hat in hand, told us what they were doing. And we said, yeah, we'll go ahead. We thought about it a lot because Fannie Kay, the founder's mother, was a teetotaler and did not believe, she's part of all the prohibitionist movement as well. So big. So it was just going to be Fannie Kay was going to turn over in her grave by doing this, but we felt it was the right thing to do because it was going to help out the local community with the proceeds that we're going to get from the royalties on the whiskey to help to improve the roundup grounds, the rodeo grounds. So we felt we're being community partners. We should go ahead and allow this. So which we did for really a nominal licensing fee. And well, the whiskey just blew up and it really took over, and they really focused on the Western lifestyle market. And it's now a major distilled spirit, pretty much one of the fastest growth areas in the brown spirits, Pendleton whiskey, Pendleton rye whiskey. And for our brand, it's been really quite remarkable. We're the growth in our younger customer base, that 25 to 45-year-old, is the fastest growing demographic we've had for the last 7 or 8 years. And in many cases, we think we're meeting this customer for the first time in the bar, and they're having their Pendleton whiskey in the bar, which I think is kind of cool. Maybe a Pendleton whiskey and a diet ginger ale, 85 calories and a great buzz. And they're discovering. So when they find out there's a brand behind it with all this apparel and home goods, they've already got a natural affiliation, because that's their drink of choice in the bar. So it's been really a unique growth experience for us, and a channel in a way we never had expected to do that. And as Pendleton whiskey continues to grow, the brand is now owned by Proximo, who also owns Jose Cuervo. So we're getting worldwide distribution of our brand through whiskey, which is helping us on the other side of the business grow through our unaided market brand recognition.
So you talk about the royalty play. So you're doing a royalty on the whiskey. Are there other things that you've moved into a royalty situation or position with?
Well, licensing, for us, we've expanded our licensing, and it's really, royalties are secondary to the growth of the brand in order to encompass more of the consumer's wallet, and from our own needs in our own direct-to-consumer channels, where I carry most all licensed product, with the exception of whiskey, which I can't. So it's an opportunity for us to grow our brand reach. So we have 14 licensees now. We have shoe licensees, we have hosiery licensees, we have cotton bedding, we have a rug licensee, we have a paper products licensee for stationery, note cards, games. We have pet, which has been huge. Pet's, been one of the big growth areas during the pandemic. The pet ownership has just gone through the roof, and everyone working from home, Fido's stared at him all day long. So he's getting that new pet bed. He's getting a new walking leash. He's getting a new pet coat, because he spent a lot more time with his owners than he ever did before. Plus, there's so many new owners out there. So, as a lot of these millennials grow up and they get married, these young families in many cases are delaying having kids, but their child is their pet. And dog ownership in that millennial group is just crazy as far as the percentages of pet ownership in the younger ages that never really existed before, in the earlier generations, as far as so many young families having pets.
It's so interesting. It's so fun to watch other companies, the way that you market yourself, the way that you position yourself. And I remember, Bob, when you and I first met, I can remember the exact place I was standing. And you are a very humble human being, because you've done very well for a large company, a very well-known company. And I walk into your booth, and we're talking about a couple projects we had been working with some of your people on. And they go, well, you need to talk to Bob. And it's like, okay. And they introduce, and you go, hi, I'm Bob. I'm Tom. And we have this meeting. And at the end of the meeting, I ask somebody, I go, well, who's Bob? And they go, Bob's the guy who's going to make all the decisions and say yes or no on this project. So I got to tell you, I really appreciate that of you, is that you've been a very humble person. And my first interaction with you just shows how humble you actually are in all of the great things that you do and that you've done. And when we met, we were working on a collaboration together, if I remember correctly. It was going to be Pendleton fabric and some Duluth pack, and some people in our organization see that, well, Pendleton, you make bags. See, why would you want to partner with another bag maker? And it's like, are you kidding? I want his customers to see my brand. And it's been a big growth area for ours. It has been our collaborations and the ability to create these unique partnerships where people step back and go, huh? What are you talking about? And we hear the same thing. It's kind of interesting because you hear it back and forth is, why are you working with these wool manufacturers? And, they have bags, so aren't they a competitor of yours? And, for our listeners, those collaborations are really important when you find the right partners and partners that you can trust, like you and I have in one another, that we're not going to jump in each other's sandboxes. We're going to work together for the greater good of the people that pay all of our bills, and that's our customer base. In fact, I know that our team is in conversation with your team as we speak, because I saw an email this morning about it on some other collaborations that will be done together here in the near future that our team has been working on. So a lot of fun, and I always appreciate that, and the appreciation for what your team does and how we can work together and take the greater of two good historic brands. But I don't want to make this about us. And being a very humble person, I want you to step out of that humbleness for a minute and really talk about some of the biggest, I guess, gold stars of your career, if you will, some of the milestones that you are really most proud of. Obviously, the owner of the company telling you that he doesn't want to be in trinkets, it sounds like that's a pretty big achievement to grow that the way you have. But talk about some of your successes and
I don't know if I have any successes, Tom. My goal is to hire people a lot smarter than me that want to work a lot harder and to just run interference so they can do their job. So my success, I don't have any success. I got people that have had great successes that I've just gotten out of the way and let them run with it and kind of run interference for them. I think one that I'm pretty proud of it's kind of a fun story is Pendleton, not only making blankets, we're also in the towel business. And we're in the towel business in a very significant way, translating our classic iconic patterns to a very high-end quality spa towel, beach towel that retails for $60, which is, the better end of, really the higher end of spa towels, beach towels. And we've really created a business there. We're Pendleton Woolen Mills and Towel Company these days because we actually sell more towels than we do wool blankets. And we sell towels to Neiman Marcus on down by our spa towels. We're in resorts. We're, pretty much all department stores. Boutique hipsters are buying our towels. Farm and Ranch is buying our towels because it's such an iconic piece of our brand, an affordable price point for many customers. And it's just been spectacular. But I had a buyer, the head of my home division at the time. I was now running multiple parts of the company, came to me and said, "Bob, I want to try these towels." I said, "Oh, wait a second. That towel is about the size of one of our blankets, and it's going to be a quarter of the price of our blanket. It's going to be made in China." This is going to be. I don't want to cheapen the brand. No, Bob, you got to try. These are quality towels. These are great spa towels. They're bigger than normal. We're not going to call them beach towels because we don't want to mark down, 50% off on 4th of July. It's, they're year-round regular price item. Anyway, she talked to me for a while, and I very slowly came around. I said, "Okay, I'll go ahead and do it, but buy down the minimum. I don't want the minimum was like 3,600 towels." And I said, "No, buy it down to 1,200. Just don't want to take the risk. Don't want to hurt my blanket business." Anyway, they came in, they blew out, and to this day, she still gives me grief when I get questioned on something that they want to do, and I push back. They say, "Well, yeah, we can always buy the minimum down, Bob, if you want us to." So pretty proud. But again, that's letting the team develop it and being open to listen. I think it's probably one of my biggest strengths and biggest successes.
Bob, you talk about, you've mentioned it a couple different times here, and this podcast name is Leader of the Pack. And you're a true leader. I don't care how humble you want to be here, but you talk about running interference for your employees, and a lot of leaders talk about that. But to our listeners, what does that really mean when you're running interference? Because you're a senior manager, you have a very important position. I understand what you're saying when you say run interference, because I do the same thing here. But what does that really mean? So our listeners in words, so they can understand.
Well, I guess when I think about that, what it means and is I'm empowering you to make decisions, and you're gonna make mistakes, and I'm empowering you to make mistakes, and I've got your back. When you work for me and you make a mistake, I got your back, and you're not gonna get fired. You're not gonna get in trouble. We're gonna have it. We're gonna address it. We're gonna fix it. But as long as you're working hard and there's a thought process behind what you did, I've got your back. And my team knows that, and that allows them to move much quicker and make decisions because they know the boss is behind them. I call the big game plans, and then I really block and tackle. I'm a center on the football team, and I'm blocking and tackling for my quarterbacks and my running backs. And so it's really just it's about empowerment and recognizing that failure is great. That you're going to become a better person if you fail a little bit. And as long as you have a back door and have some ideas, if it doesn't go option A, that you've got a couple ideas on how we can get out of that, I'm going to support you. And they know that. And so when they go into meetings and they work with other compatriots within the organization, they speak with authority. They're able to carry more weight and be able to get things done faster because the people that they're working with within the organization know it's one of the guys on Bob's team. And we don't need to go ask his permission because we already know they have it if they're asking us for it.
That's really cool. And that's a great analogy out there for how to run interference and how to empower your team so that they can be successful and let them then be successful. So thank you for the analogy of that. Bob, one thing you mentioned when you were talking about blankets, and I'm jumping around a little bit here, but you mentioned more than once a jacquard blanket. What does that mean to me? I don't know what a jacquard is.
Okay. Well, let me think. Jacquard blankets are blankets woven with a loom that allows you to make, curvilinear designs on textiles as opposed to horizontal lines. And so we're able to, with the jacquard loom, we're able to be much more complicated in our designs. We can create curvilinear design work, something that we cannot do with our traditional loom, which is a dobby loom, which creates stripes and plaids and checks. So, but with a jacquard, you can create curvilinear designs. Some of the real unique patterns we have are because of that. It also allows you to have multiple colors going across the face of a blanket that are ununiform versus the uniformity that you get with a stripe or a plaid blanket. So it really opens up the artistic palette to the design teams a lot more by having a jacquard loom. And jacquard is the name of the French fellow who created the jacquard loom back in the 1700s.
Is that some of the Western patterns then that you would make would be on the jacquard looms?
Well, a Western pattern, sure, a Western pattern, a Persian pattern, a Inca pattern, South American pattern could all be created with a jacquard loom much more easily.
You make all of these super cool blankets that have those on there, and if you've been to the festival in the summer and you see people with the hand looms and they're just doing two directional,
Yep.
Which would be your dobby loom, and then you have your jacquard loom.
Dobby loom and jacquard loom, yeah.
Okay.
And the jacquard loom is really, we're working more and more because of the new technologies that we have. We're able to really allow people that are not weaving experts to create blanket designs, because we have the software now that can take their paperwork design and translate that into the weaving technology of the loom to actually create the patterns. In the old days, you had to be a technology expert and understand weaving and have years of experience in order to create a design on the jacquard loom. Nowadays, it's much easier. So it's really been opened up the opportunity for us to showcase a lot of our indigenous customers' work, which there's phenomenal artists out there in the Native American community that we've been able to work with now, because we can take their designs, which they create on a two-dimensional piece of paper, translate that into loom and create this three-dimensional textile from their initial design. So it's really opened up the creativity that you've seen in textile weaving in the last 20 years. Has really been the advent of the computer software that allows us to translate from paper to weaving technology without being a technology expert at weaving.
Thank you, because that helps a lot, because we sell your blankets and we sell both styles, And it helps when you look at it to understand how that comes about.
Yeah.
Bob, we have all been affected during COVID. Thank goodness it's in the rearview mirror now, and not far in the rearview mirror, but it's in the rearview mirror if we can knock on wood. How were you and Pendleton affected by COVID?
Well, like everyone, we had to shut down during the early days. I closed all the stores. I remember I closed the stores on the 16th of March, a Monday morning. Thought I'd be closed for 2 weeks. Okay, we're going to close the stores for 2 weeks. Let this thing pass us by. It's 4 to 5 months before we really had most of the portfolio back open in some way. But obviously, the challenges everyone faced, supply chain challenges. Our own mill was shut down for 8 weeks, so we had no production. Luckily, we have our direct-to-consumer business and our web business, and that just took off. And we were able to keep our distribution centers open, and we were able to process the orders and ship the orders. So actually, COVID has dramatically increased our direct business much faster than we had planned. We're 4 to 5 years ahead of our strategic plan on our direct business because of the growth of that. And being in the home business just took off as consumers were spending time at home, because working from home, locked down at home, they were spending more money on their home. So home decor, blankets took off. As I mentioned, our pet business went up a factor of 4 in the first year as the pets got new bedding. And then Pendleton, we're not a bottoms company. I'm glad I'm not Levi during the COVID times. I'm glad I'm Pendleton because we're a tops brand. And so we make great looking shirts. We make great looking women's sweaters. So we've got, everyone's on these conference calls all day long, like we are right now. And, they're wearing boxer shorts or the pajama bottoms, and they've got a beautiful Pendleton shirt. They look very, very responsible, respectful. So our tops business, apparel business, and sweater business has just gone through the roof, as well as our loungewear, anything that's comfortable. So that's been a big benefit for our own internal sales, as well as our customers have also seen the big growth, our trade accounts. And so our wholesale business has also garnered big increases. Our challenge has been the challenge that everyone's faced is the supply chain. The delayed deliveries, shortage in raw materials, and we're still struggling with that. We're 2 to 3 months late in some cases on product. We can't get enough people to work in the mills. And working in the mill it's a laborious job. I mean, this is not just sitting there making coffee all day long as a barista in a coffee shop. You're lifting, you're bending, you're moving around. It's very physical work, and it's a challenge to find folks that want to work that hard these days.
Bob, I think back and your flannel shirts, your long sleeve flannel shirts, and a personal anecdote here is when my father passed away, my mother asked me if I would like to have all my dad's flannel shirts because I'm a flannel shirt guy, and I said I would love to. The only unfortunate part, because my dad took meticulous care, because these were investments to my father, and they're beautiful. And some of these shirts are 20, 25 years old, and they were like day one, because when you buy American made quality, that's what you get, right? And I remember it being another one of those horrible days after my dad passed that I tried on all of his flannel Pendleton shirts. And unfortunately, the arms were about halfway, because I have very long arms, about halfway up my forearms. And I was like, well, son of a gun, I don't get any of dad's shirts. And that was a real bummer, because I wanted to have some of those. And I knew that they were literally family heirlooms that last that long because of the high quality you make. Mm-hmm. Folks, today we're talking with Bob Christnacht, Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Pendleton Woolen Mills, who has had a fantastic career, just an awesome human being. Bob, tell us what the handles are so our customers can go and shop on your website and follow you on all the different social medias.
Pendleton-USA.com brings you to the Pendleton main website. And you can find pretty much anything you want to there. And that's also where you can find out great stories. It's not only a retail site, it's also a storytelling site. And it's a career opportunity site. We're always looking for great folks, and all the Pendleton opportunities are there. There's some great ones, and I'm always looking for fresh folks that want to be empowered in their own business and their own destiny. So hopefully some of your listeners can fill some of my positions, Tom.
And we hope that as well, as long as they're not from the Minnesota area, because we need to hire some great people that you just mentioned there.
All right, well, we'll knock Minnesota out of the and we'll send back all the Minnesota resumes to you. How's that?
There we go. And Bob, pre-COVID, you could take the tours, the wonderful, wonderful tour that I had that is very memorable. And I tour a lot of factories, but I had so much fun and it was so memorable. Are you still doing tours post-COVID, or do you plan on getting back into tours?
Tours are scheduled to resume May 1st. It'll be 2 years and 3 months since the world famous Pendleton Mill Tours last toured the mills, but we'll be back up with our tours approximately May 1st, 2022 at both mills.
And they can find that information on your website as well.
On the website, yeah.
Folks, if you're in the area of Pendleton, Oregon, you've got to take this tour. It is epic. You will learn so much, and you'll also find yourself, after taking that tour, you will be supporting a great American company. I promise you. Bob, we're going to go personal on you now.
Uh-oh.
You've had this illustrious career. Well, we're done with that part now, because you're
okay.
But we're gonna find out a little bit more about you.
All right. What do you want to know, Tom?
What's your favorite hobby outside of work?
Well, I think it's working with tools, working on cars. I'm a gearhead, so it's playing with the toys, playing with the tools.
Okay, you were just talking about you filled up the hot rod with gas today. What's the hot rod?
No, that's a sports car. The hot rod's Infinity G37 Sport is my daily commuter, but I have 69 Camaro SS.
Nice.
350. Yes.
Nice. Just keep rubber side down, please.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, favorite vacation destination, Bob?
Well, that would probably be the Oregon coast, or heading back home to Montana and get up in the western Montana, part of western Montana, up in the mountains around Flathead Lake. You never go wrong with a evening in Montana. Especially in the summertime.
Oh man, you can see forever if you get up at some altitude, the clean skies.
That's right.
Wow. Biggest fear, Bob?
Oh boy, snakes.
I'm with you.
Snakes, man.
Did you have a bad experience, or it's just snakes as a whole?
I put a hole in a hip waiter back in my college days from a shotgun blast, taking out a rattlesnake. Doing casting, but we used to go down the big hole and do casting and blasting during duck season. We float down the river fishing. You come around a corner, you put the poles away, pull out shotguns, shoot at the birds, and then fish again until the next curve. And then anyway, I hopped out of the water with my hip waders on to use the facilities, shotgun on the shoulder, and stepping over a log. There was a late season snake that wanted to make some noise at me, and so I dropped the gun down and just clipped the teeny end of the hip waiter boot off.
Well, I'm glad you didn't clip any more than that.
That's it. As am I. But I was in college. It was the only pair of, it cost a fortune to replace those things. Yeah.
Oh boy, that's a memorable one there.
It is.
Favorite movie?
Oh, Tom, I have 3.
Okay.
Used Cars with Kurt Russell. You ever saw that?
Many, many years ago.
Animal House, The Most Blazing Saddles.
Those are good ones. All 3 of them.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Which, if there's younger listeners on this that are trying to learn from a business executive that worked his way up, they might not know those movies, Bob. You know what you're doing?
They probably don't.
You're aging us. And Bob, the last packed question, because that's what this whole segment is called, our packed questions segment. What's the best piece of life advice that you have ever received?
Well, Tom, I think it also comes from another movie, a famous movie back from 1970s called The Gumball Rally. I don't know if you remember that movie.
Absolutely.
Racing across from New York to California. Well, in the movie, the Italian guy driver gets in the Ferrari sports car, and he's a world famous driver, gets in the car. The first thing he does is rips off the rearview mirror and throws it out his window. And he says, "What's behind you, it's behind you." And going forward, I think you can't dwell on the past. You make mistakes, you learn from them, and you move forward. You don't dwell on the past. So I think my best piece of life advice came from the gumball rally.
You know what? Wherever we can get those good pieces of advice, they're worth it, right? Because they're life advice to make us better.
That's right.
Bob, we cannot thank you enough for being here today. Folks, our special guest today is Bob Christnacht, the Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Pendleton Woolen Mills. What an illustrious career. What a great, fun day this has been, spending some time with you. Bob, thank you so much.
Hey, my pleasure, Tom. Great to see you. Look forward to all the success you guys are building up there in Duluth.
Well, thank you, and to you as well. And can't wait to see you at the next trade show. And folks, until next time, unplug from the indoors and recharge in the outdoors.